Federalist 85, Part 5, paragraph 13. In opposition to the probability of subsequent amendments, it has been urged that the persons delegated to the administration of the national government will always be disinclined to yield up any portion of the authority of which they were once possessed. For my own part, I acknowledge a thorough conviction that any amendments which may, upon mature consideration, be thought useful, will be applicable to the organization of the government, not to the mass of its powers. And on this account alone, I think there is no weight in the observation just stated. So the critics are saying, well, once this national government gets going and people get their jobs, some of them will have a position, will have money, will have power, why would they want the Constitution amended? They're not going to let it be amended. So we better do this amendment now. And Hamilton says, no, actually, I also think there is little weight in it on another account. The intrinsic difficulty of governing 13 states at any rate, independent of calculations upon an ordinary degree of public spirit and integrity, will, in my opinion, constantly impose on the national rulers the necessity of a spirit of accommodation to the reasonable expectations of their constituents. But there is yet a further consideration which proves beyond the possibility of doubt that the observation is futile. It is this, that the national rulers, whenever 9 states concur, will have no option upon the subject. By the 5th article of the plan, the Congress will be obliged, on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the states, which at present amount to 9, to call a convention for proposing amendments, which shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of the Constitution when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the states or by conventions in 3/4 thereof. The words of this article are peremptory. The Congress shall call a convention. Nothing in this particular is left to the discretion of that body, and of consequence all the declamations about their disinclination to a change vanishes in air. So he tells the critics that they say, no, you're not going to amend the Constitution once it goes into force right now. He says, no, look at the text of the Constitution. It says when 2/3 of the states want an amendment, want a convention to take place, there is no way around it. It has to happen. And that's why it says it uses the language of shall. Okay? Shall call a convention. As you will see when you read the First Amendment, it uses the word shall. It doesn't say will, may have, maybe, perhaps. It's a command. Okay? So it says there's no way around it. When those 2/3 of the state legislatures decide that they want a convention to be called, it's going to happen. I'll continue. Nor, however difficult it may be supposed to unite 2/3 or 3/4 of the state legislatures in amendments which may affect local interest, can there be any room to apprehend any such difficulty in a union on points which are merely relative to the general liberty or security of the people. We may safely rely on the disposition of the state legislatures to erect barriers against the encroachments of the national authority. So again, he's reminding them that, look, you're electing your state representatives as well as your national representatives. The state representatives will be watchful of what the national government does. If it slacks off, if it doesn't do what it's supposed to, the states will be responsive. Number one, the state legislatures at that time elected the senators. So they'll send in senators that will get the job done. You guys, a lot of the things are left to the states. So you can actually manage your life real well, and national government will be checked if it tries to encroach upon the rights of the states and the people. If the foregoing argument is a fallacy, certain it is that I am myself deceived by it. For it is, in my conception, one of those rare instances in which a political truth can be brought to the test of mathematical demonstration. Those who see the matter in the same light with me, however zealous they may be for amendments, must agree in the propriety of a previous adoption as the most direct road to their own object. The zeal for attempts to amend prior to the establishment of the Constitution must abate in every man who is ready to accede to the truth of the following observations of a writer equally solid and ingenious. And again, here he quotes David Hume. To balance a large state or society, says Hume, whether monarchical or republican, on general laws is a work of so great difficulty that no human genius, however comprehensive, is able, by the mere dint of reason and reflection, to effect it. The judgments of many must unite in the work. Experience must guide their labor. Look, he uses these very telling words, very important words, he puts them in capital letters. Experience, time, he puts that in capital letters. Time must bring it to perfection. And the feeling again in capital letters, of inconveniences must correct the mistakes which they inevitably fall into. Kind of what we call today self-correcting mechanism. In their first trials and experiments, these judicious reflections contain a lesson of moderation to all the sincere lovers of the Union, and ought to put them upon their guard against hazarding anarchy, civil war, a perpetual alienation of the states from each other, and perhaps the military despotism of a victorious demagogue. Just remember this word, demagogue. He kind of starts Federalist 1 with the word demagogue. He says, if we don't unite, if we don't make the right decision, we will be trapped by a demagogue. He'll tell us what we want to hear, and once he wrests power, he gets power in his hands, he will make your life miserable. And in Federalist number 1, one of the most beautiful passages, it says we can establish a government that will be a model for the rest of the world from reflection and choice rather than accident and force. And here he's going to end Federalist 85 with saying that we don't want to hazard anarchy, civil war, perpetual alienation of the states from each other, and perhaps the military despotism of a victorious demagogue in the pursuit of what they are not likely to obtain, but from time and experience. It may be in me a defect of political fortitude, but I acknowledge that I cannot entertain an equal tranquility with those who affect to treat the dangers of a longer continuance in our present situation as imaginary. It's not imaginary. He says if we don't unite now, that we are at peace with each other, the British monarchy, the French, the Spanish that are surrounding us, they would love to see us weak and divided. They'll take advantage of us and bring us to our knees. A nation without a national government is, in my view, an awful spectacle. The establishment of a constitution in time of profound peace by the voluntary consent of a whole people is a prodigy to the completion of which I look forward with trembling anxiety. I cannot reconcile it to no rules of prudence to let go the hold we now have in so arduous an enterprise upon 7 out of the 13 states. And after having passed over so considerable part of the ground to recommence the course. 7 states have already ratified. It would be a definite mess if we don't get a chance and ratify this thing. Unite the 13 states and have a strong government, because the alternative is chaos. I dread the consequences of new attempts, because I know that powerful individuals in this and in other states are enemies to a general national government in every possible shape. So he's warning people that there are, just like he had from the beginning, there are people that don't want to see us united because they feel like they can have a better position, they can get a better post in a confederation consisting of 3-4 states than in a union. So they're doing everything they can to urge you not to join, but in doing so, they will make you miserable, you will not be prosperous, and you will not have a chance to establish a government that would be a model for the rest of the world.